All right, example 7. Similar to what we just did, except it's not the trig function and its inverse together there, right? So we're going to have to do a little work. And so we're doing composite functions. Do you remember from the algebra part, how do we work composite functions? What do we do first? You're going to work on the inside first, okay? So I have these split into separate slides there, so we got room. All right, so for A, we're looking for cosine of the inverse tangent of 2/3. So we're going to take and we're going to work this inside. So we're going to let it equal, this is inverse tangent. What they were letting it equal before was y. So that means we're really looking for cosine of y. So I'm going to take this down here now, and I'm going to do some work. So we know that y is equal to the inverse tangent of 2/3. Just like before, I'm going to take the inverse. So that means tangent of y equals 2/3. Tangent is y over x, and we're looking in what quadrants? Quadrants 1 and 4, but since tangent is positive, which specific quadrant is it? All right, so we're looking in quadrant 1. Now, when I look in quadrant 1, I don't have anything that has y is 2 and x is 3, do I? I have x as a square root of 3, but not x is 3. So that means this one is not on my unit circle. So what are we going to do? No. We're going to use x, y, and r. So, alright, so we know that x is 3. Well, first, actually, I need to ask you, in quadrant 1, is x positive or negative?
Positive.
And what about y?
Positive.
And what about r?
What?
Positive.
R is always positive, the radius.
Oh, yeah. Oh, okay.
Jeez. Alright, so we know that y is going to be 2, x is going to be 3, and how are we going to find r?
X squared plus y squared equals r.
Very good. So x squared plus y squared equals r squared.
Good job, Hayden.
So we know that 3 squared plus 2 squared equals r squared. Keep solving.
Do they not like the square root of that?
So 9 plus 4 equals r squared.
Oh, I see.
So r squared is 13. Take the square root, and we know r is equal to plus or minus square root of 13. But we want the positive because r is a radius, so it's always positive. So I'm going to bring the positive square root of 13 up there. Now, how is this going to help me when I'm looking for cosine? Well, what is cosine in terms of x, y, and r? X over r. Now, we have to put the over r because we're not on the unit circle, okay? And so what is my x value? Over what is r? Can't have the radical on bottom, so move it. Very good. Multiply top and bottom by it. And we get 3 square roots of 13 over 13. All right, so for B, we're going to do the same thing pretty much. So we're going to take the inside, and we're going to let it equal y, and we're going to work it out, which means we're really looking for sine of y. So we know y equals the inverse cosine of negative 1/4. So go ahead and take the inverse. So cosine of y is equal to negative 1/4. What is cosine in terms of x, y, and r? X over r. And real quick, I need to ask, since we're doing inverse cosine, what quadrants are we looking at?
1 and 2. Wait. 1 and 2. So it's negative, so 2.
So specifically, you're right. Since cosine is negative, we are in quadrant 2.
Yeah, do we need to know that?
You do. Just a second, I'll show you why.
Like, all we need to know is that it's negative or positive.
X is negative by.
You need to know what, because we're missing our y value, we're going to have to know is y positive or negative, so we got to know what quadrant we're in. Now, do we have to know specifically quadrant 2 versus quadrant 1 and 2? No, it's going to be the same exact sign for the y value.
X is negative, y is positive.
All right, so always start out with r when you're doing this, because r is always positive, right? So r is 4, so what is x? Negative 1, and we got to find y. But we're in quadrant 1 and 2, or more particular, we said we're in quadrant 2, so what is y in those quadrants? Y is positive, because they're above the x-axis. All right, so using your x squared plus y squared equals r squared. Kind of push this on through here a little bit. So 1 plus y squared equals 16. I'm going to subtract the 1. So y squared equals 15. Take the square root. Y equals plus or minus the square root of 15. You can't break that down, okay? But you told me we're looking for the positive. So y is the positive square root of 15.
Why can't it just work out equal?
All right, so now we're going to take that and come back up here. Sine is what in terms of x, y, and r? We know y is square root of 15. We know r is 4. We can't simplify that any, so there's our solution.